Now, as you know, the ABC is required by law to be impartial. Many viewers have long known that's not the case. National broadcaster much prefers to platform left-wing voices. And it's not just in the people it chooses to work for them, but also the topics it chooses to cover. For instance, it has a dedicated outlet for LGBTIQ stuff called ABC Queer, which publishes such gripping content as Why I Love Being Fat, and Bottoms, which is a TV show that, quote, lets queer women be unhinged and horny, and we're here for it. Tax is well spent, eh? But now the ABC has itself admitted it has a left-wing bent in its own analysis of the network's coverage of the Voice to Parliament referendum. According to the report by ABC editorial policies manager Mark Maley, who's also their referendum coverage review committee chair, the majority of voices aired on the ABC in relation to the referendum supported the yes vote. 51% of them were in the yes camp. Just 23% supported the no vote. 23%. Not only were they the majority of the voices on the ABC, pro-voice, they had more than twice as many voice advocates on air than voice opponents. The rest was made up of 24% deemed to be neutral and 2% undecided. Now, you'd think this was a pretty clear breach of impartiality, but according to Mr Maley's report, it didn't matter. He wrote, quote, teams were explicitly told that 50-50 balance of advocates was not required. The goal was to ensure that audiences on all platforms were presented with the main arguments for and against the propositions in the referendum on every platform within a reasonable time. This was achieved. So in his eyes, it doesn't matter how much you heard certain perspectives, just that you at least heard them once. Tick the box and then we'll shove yes down your throat. And that's job done. It was obvious when Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce went on Q&A, the lone voice opponent with 3 voice supporters, and the crowd booed him.
I think that this is probably one of the most divisive things that has come into my area and regional area in my political history. It's why are you doing this on...
1 minute. Let's just be respectful.
You've got that attitude. When other people out there hear it, it resonates why they're angry about this.
Or when the ABC's children's news program Behind the News suggested the Voice would be good for everyone.
How would the referendum affect non-Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples?
The short answer is this referendum likely won't affect the lives of non-Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The Voice will only advise the government on policies that directly affect Indigenous Australians, but it aims to close the gap and create a more equal Australia. Things like improving the life expectancy of Indigenous Australians, employment rates, and helping kids and teenagers finish school and find jobs. And that's good for everyone.
But the ABC's own editorial policy on impartiality states in section 4.2 of that policy that it must present a diversity of perspectives so that over time no significant strand of thought or belief within the community is knowingly excluded or disproportionately represented. Given more than twice as many yes voices were given airtime on the ABC compared to no voices, then surely they are in breach of their own standards. That's a clear-cut, disproportionate representation. Standard 4.5 says do not unduly favour one perspective over another. Again, if more than half of the people broadcast were pro-voice, then there is an argument that their perspectives were unduly favoured. The fact the ABC admits it platformed yes campaigners far more but sees no issue with this despite its own policies is astounding. It's not just their policies. The ABC's impartiality is enshrined in law under the ABC Act. But what did Communications Minister Michelle Rowland say about it this week? Nothing. If the ABC won't adhere to the law and its own policies, then it's the government's job to pull them into line. But, of course, the ABC was towing the same line on The Voice as the government. I mean, look, we probably didn't need a taxpayer-funded report to tell us all this stuff, Caroline, but when you see the numbers like that, 51% pro, 23% no, it's quite stark.
It is quite stark, but ultimately I get to the position of, well, just look how wrong they were about it. Look how they didn't read the room, how they weren't talking to
like
everyday people, how... Not like the ABC at all. There was a lot of backslapping and navel gazing and echo chambers and all that sort of thing, and they read it completely wrong. And when you are the national broadcaster for the country, you know, hang your head in shame because you totally missed the mark on that one. The other thing, though, too, Caleb, is how effective were they? And we've seen a number of reports in relation to the ABC, their viewership, but also how well the No campaign did on things like TikTok and what their numbers and reach were. So, yeah, I mean, the ABC, if they want to talk to themselves, by all means, talk to yourself. But, you know, I'm not really sure that anyone else is listening.
I mean, someone's got to pull them into line, James. So it's not going to be this government. We know that because, you know, they're basically, they can act as a propaganda arm if they leave much in.
They towed our line?
How dare you?
God, something has to be done about this.
But you've not seen an ABC board actually pull them in, and nor have you even seen a coalition government pull them in.
No, because they're too scared. Well, one thing I want to say is that you say there's 23% on the No campaign, and it's tempting to think, oh, that's 23% Conservative. But you need to remember, there's also the radical left-wing fringe that voted no because the Voice didn't go far enough. Yeah. So if you had a Lydia Thorpe argument, is that a no? Yeah. So that's part of it. And the bias is only going to get worse because one thing the report really rewards itself with is, oh, but look at Tom Switzer. We had Tom Switzer on the radio and he interviewed Conservative voices, and how good was that, and how good is the ABC for employing Tom Switzer? As of next year, they don't employ Tom Switzer.
He's leaving.
Gone. Adam Vanstone, she's gone as well. So this bias is only going to get worse next year. And yeah, as you say, there is simply no one around who's interested in doing anything about it.
And Switzer and Vanstone were on Radio National anyway, which is listened to about 2 men and a dog, you know. We'll just punt them over there and hope for the best.
That's fine, Tom Switzer.
I like Tom. But, you know, no one listens to Radio National. Very few people listen to Radio National anyway.